Shortly after the coronavirus pandemic started, there was an interest in movies like Contagion or Outbreak to watch and to learn from on how to live this present moment. There was also an interest in pandemics of the past. Since we don't have people who have really lived through pandemics much in our own time and in this country, we look to events of the past like the 1918 flu. And I don't know if you caught it, but there was in the local newspaper shortly after the pandemic started a clipping from the newspaper in 1918 from Marshalltown, in which it said people, when they are out and about in public, should wear masks, should stay at home as much as possible, and then stay far apart from people as much as they can. It could have been clipped out of today's newspaper. But in times like these, we draw on experiences of the past to know how to live in the present. And that's a good way to understand what the books of wisdom are all about. So starting today and for the next 2 weeks, we're going to hear from the books of wisdom, which come to us from the Old Testament. In fact, there are 4 different sections of the Old Testament. We have the Pentateuch, which tells the story from the origin story and creation story to the time entering in the Promised Land. Then we have in the second group of books, the historical books, the story from entering the Holy Land onward. Then we have the wisdom books, and then we have the prophetic books. These are the 4 major divisions of the Old Testament. And the wisdom books encompass books like Psalms, Sirach, Ecclesiastes, and Proverbs, which we hear today. And what they talk about is this sort of basic premise about how do we draw from the past in order to live in the present? How do we best live? What does a life in abundance look like? A wise life. So a wise person draws from experience of the past in order to live the present. So these draw from lots of different centuries and from different cultures to come up with these different sayings about wisdom. And so kind of the underlying message of the books of wisdom are, if I do good and follow what God is asking, then I will have an abundant life, a blessed life. If I decide not to follow God's ways and not really care about other people, then bad things will come. So if I do good, good will come. If I do bad things will come. It seems kind of simplistic. And the book of Job, which you're going to hear the end of this week and next week, is going to challenge that premise. Because there are situations where bad things happen to good people. But we're not there yet. We're still in the book of Proverbs, which has a great breadth of knowledge on any sort of life situation. And so we hear very poetic language in these books of wisdom. Lots of poetry, vivid imagery, such as my favorite from today, which goes like this. Those who follow after wealth are like people who chase a bubble over deadly snares. So you have this image of like a deadly trap for an animal and someone chasing after a bubble who has no care for what will happen. Sort of the futility of seeking after wealth that's just going to pop and disappear like a bubble, and the way we put ourselves and others at risk. But we hear an interesting thing in our gospel today. Jesus says it's not just what we hear, the word, but how we act on it. He's drawing on this great wisdom tradition. But Jesus is also wisdom in a person, right? Jesus invites us in our gospel today. We are called, anyone who is his brother or sister are those who hear the word of God and act on it. So I encourage you today to open up this great book of Proverbs and read 5 of them. And maybe sit with one of them. And how might that one be speaking to you today? How might we draw from the wisdom of the past in order to live in the present?